Cool, excellent. So welcome everybody to another series of the In Conversation With. So this is a series that is along partnered with the Wellcome Centre of Anti-Infectious Research at the University of Dundee in Scotland. And tonight we have two speakers. These two are public engagement officers from different parts of the world. So we have a UK-based public engagement officer, and we also have another officer from South Africa. So that's really cool. But before we get started, I would like to do a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Webster, and I work at the Wellcome Centre, which is at the University of Dundee. I am female, I'm 32, I have blonde hair, which is currently actually tied up, and I'm wearing a blue top as well. So let's get ourselves started. I'll let the speakers introduce themselves. So we'll go in alphabetical order. And first of all, we have is Ali. So Ali, if you'd like to introduce yourself for the audience.
Hi there, my name's Ali. I'm Public Engagement Manager for the Wellcome Centre for Anti-Infectious Research in Dundee. And I am a man with dark curly hair and a beard. I'm wearing a kind of blue and purple paisley patterned shirt. My pronouns are he, him and his.
Excellent, cool. Thank you very much for the introduction. And Zandy, if you'd like to take us away.
Thank you, Lauren. So my name is Zandile Ciko. I am a 35-year-old young lady. So I've got my hair with braids and a lovely bun, and I'm wearing glasses, and I'm also wearing a tracksuit and a shawl because Cape Town is freezing.
Oh no,
Yeah.
You're meant to be warm. So that's great. So what we're going to do with this session is we're looking to explore the public engagement in different parts of the world. But what we want to do first of all is we want some of the audience participation. And it'd be really good if you guys have your mobile phones handy. If you are on your mobile phones for the session, don't worry, you can just flick off and go onto your web browser. You can use Chrome, Safari, whatever it is you have installed on your Android or Apple device. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to ask the audience for some of their thoughts. And what we'd like to do is we'd like you to log in to Menti. So there is a link, at the top of the screen here where you will be prompted to type in a code. So this is for everybody. So if you'd like to get yourself started just now by typing that into your web browser, what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to get a feel for the audience. And in doing so, we're going to have to start having little conversations with our guest speakers just now. So Ali and Zandy. So question to both of you, and feel free, whichever one wants to get in there first, is what brought you to public engagement?
Can I start, Ali?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so my background is actually in social development and public participation. So what really brought me to do public engagement within health research was that there was a big trial called HVTN 702. I'm not sure if you guys still remember it. It was the HIV vaccine trial. And I really wanted to get into it because it really focused on the key population that I'm really passionate about, which is youth. And I thought, okay, I could definitely make some impact with regards to, HIV, sexual reproductive health. But then obviously at that particular time, I wasn't, well versed with regards to health research. Long story short, that was 2016, 5 years ago, and moved all the way up to do public engagement as a project manager. So really, that was what really prompted me into doing it. It was the passion around the key population that the particular study was focused on, and really wanting to see an impact within that key population, and also within that specific, niche, and within that specific sector, which was HIV.
That's great. That's great. Good cause as well to do it for, and good that you've managed to continue your passion on all the way through the rest of your career. So that's great. That's great. Ali, I was going to say, what brought you to public engagement?
Yeah, my route is a little bit different, but I think that's one of those things about public engagement professionals, that we are from all different walks of life. So I have a microbiology degree from the University of Glasgow from quite a few years ago, and I'm a little bit older than the other two here. And public engagement really wasn't a thing that you could do, particularly when I was younger. So I knew I didn't necessarily want to be in a lab. I did a lot of kind of music and theatre and things. So after I graduated, I actually end up touring the world as a performer in the cruise industry and the kind of big Broadway style shows on cruise ships, which is kind of a long-term gig. You're away for 6 months at a time. And at one point I couldn't, my brother was getting married, and I ended up working at Glasgow Science Centre. And that's where I got to kind of combine my love of theatre and science together. And so from that, I've kind of rolled forward, initially working with Edinburgh Science Festival, National Museum of Scotland, and then into my post in Dundee. So I've really been around the kind of science communication, public engagement stuff for 10, 11 years now, off and on between different gigs. And it's just such a fascinating job. And I'm so lucky to get to do so many different things that I really, really enjoy.
No, that's great. And actually, by looking at the polls as well from the audience, they would also agree with you that majority of them, yes, they have. They've also engaged with some, well, participated in public engagement, which is great. And whether that's the scientists in the audience, if we have scientists, if that's just with other members of staff from all different walks of life, so teaching and perhaps administrative roles, that's great. I was going to say, because public engagement isn't just about science. I know that you both have mentioned science, like that's the role or the route that you're both taking, but it's not necessarily the only route that you can take. So that's great. Good. So thank you, audience, for filling in that. But we do have some more for you as well, because it's, you know, as much as we work, you guys are also asked to participate in it as well. So this one is a word cloud for you all. So you should now see on the screen, it's asking you, what 3 words do you associate with public engagement? And on your phones, you should have 3 different areas where you can type in your 3 different words. It does have a character limit, which is why we've just asked for words. But if you have to add in 2 words to describe the same thing, that's perfectly okay.
Lauren, I hope we put the swear filter on this. Not that anyone here would think of doing such a thing, but
oh no, we are doing public engagement as well. Perhaps maybe I should have. Keep it clean, audience. Keep it clean.
You have to be prepared for unexpected things.
Exactly. So yeah, guys. So actually, one of them that's just popped up, and I don't know if it's because in red, but it said they're children. Would you say that, you know, public engagement is just about working with children?
No.
They're a great audience.
Yeah, it's definitely vast, but yeah, let's hear what they have to say. Definitely vast.
Yeah. And I think children sometimes ask better questions than grown-ups. They'll challenge you more, whereas grown-ups feel they have to be polite, whereas kids can really go there and really make you think, which is great.
It's great as well working with kids, because don't you feel that, you know, you have to think about how to explain something very different depending on your audience?
Although actually, yeah.
No, I was going to say, I think for me, it's quite, it's children, but also because we work a lot with stakeholders. So we do a lot of stakeholder engagement, you know, simply because with the kind of environment we work in, it's very difficult to work alone, especially if you're trying to build trust within a certain community. So we work a lot with the stakeholders, and advocates are like children, and I mean that in the most sincere way ever. They will put you in the corner. They will ask you the most, you know, I don't want to say difficult, but they'll ask you a question that you yourself have never thought of. I remember, sorry, I'm somebody with scenarios. I always have a scenario. But anyway, I remember when
take us through.
So I remember we were introducing, I think it was one of our TB vaccine studies, and we were introducing this to activists and advocates, and you know, one of our senior scientists actually said, I've never ever, I'm a professor for 15 years and I've never ever been asked that question, even in the lecture hall. So that's how much they put you in the corner and they grill you. So I'm just thinking in terms of children, just how, you know, vast and how wide their minds think when you're explaining something to them.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. How do you find, you know, scientists? Because I know that we're both from, well, all 3 of us, I should say, are from science backgrounds. How do you feel the scientists deal with these sorts of questions? Is there any like coaching that you give the scientist or the individual? As if to say, keep it clean and don't lie, but apart from that,
I think it's one of those interesting things, because people sometimes say to us, well, how can I explain this really difficult thing accurately without using jargon words or kind of complex terminology? And you know, it's hard. But
Mhm.
researchers, you're clever and we like giving you a challenge. So it's worth spending the time actually coming up. And I've heard some really great explanations of really complex things, really simply done, certainly.
No, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I think for me, I've asked them to be as transparent as they can, because I mean, with us, there's a lot of mistrust with regards to health. There's really, really a lot of mistrust. So I always say to them that, listen, if you feel at any point when you're explaining something, you're not, explaining it the way that maybe you might feel, the audience or even just the meeting attendees or the people that you're doing an activity with are not grasping it, say to them that you're also having a difficult time explaining it. So they also understand that it's also difficult for you, right? And try by all means to then get them to come to you and say, okay, so what are you trying to explain? What examples can we use? What living experiences can we give you to better explain what you're trying to do? So now it becomes an engagement, becomes two-way. So it's really not just having, especially with the senior scientists, with the younger scientists, it's much easier because I get time to prep them before I look at their presentations. I look at their activities. I see in terms of where they've pitched it. The senior scientists, they just want to go and do it and run, and it becomes difficult to prep them before. But what I've said with them is that be transparent. I mean, everybody has their own limitations, so it might not be as comfortable for you, explaining something without using jargon, but be aware of it, though. Be aware of it so that if somebody does actually pick up that you've used a difficult word, bring it back to them and say, I'm trying to explain when this happens and this is how it happens and this is, and it makes it easier. And it also, shows a little bit of a vulnerability to your audience so that they don't feel, especially with us, because we've got situations of, economics, we've got race, we've got a lot of barriers that can really cause, a disconnect. So being able to say that I'm struggling to really explain this, help me out. How can I better explain it? And it really gives you sort of that vulnerability as especially a senior scientist to your audience.
Yeah, no, wow. I was going to say, yeah, that's actually really good that you said about the vulnerability bit, is that showing that side of you because everybody has that side of them. I think that's a great point actually to make for the audience listening as well.
I think it's great to see that word dialogue appearing because actually,
Yes.
more often than not, it's
Yeah.
about us asking questions of our
Yeah.
audience rather than explaining and telling them. So yeah, it's really great to see that word there and in quite large. So more than one person's obviously said it.
Yeah, no, that's great. There is one word, though, I would actually just like to address upon again because it does come into the theme of this talk, which is communities. So I think that's really good. So, I mean, Ali, I'm just going to pick on you for this one just now. Is what's your thoughts on about, taking public engagement to the communities, the wider audience?
I think that's a really great question. So, one of the first things someone asked me when I started my post was, why do people in Dundee need to know about neglected tropical diseases? Because that's the kind of core of the centre's research work. And, in many ways, they don't need to know about neglected tropical diseases. You're unlikely to catch Chagas disease in darkest Dundee. But the kind of awareness of science, awareness of what goes on in the city, what amazing work happens in Dundee, how international it is, that kind of stuff is really useful. I think a lot of researchers go into communities, they do a thing, and then they leave. And actually, we've worked with the same community for the last 4 years now in Stobswell in the East End of Dundee. And they're a really, really great bunch. They're really enthusiastic. There's a great festival. It's an area with some fairly significant deprivation. But actually, we've been able to work with them. And really, it's been a kind of skills swap. So we've learned about them. They've learned some science. We've built some relationships. We helped keep them online during COVID. And they're really the only community council in Dundee that's kept going for the last year. So it's been a very different way for a public engagement person to work. But it's been super rewarding for everyone, I think.
No, that's great. And yeah, the Stobswell project that you do is a credit to you and your team as well. And it's great as well with testing times of COVID as well that you kept it going. So yeah, very well done. That's great. Great, guys. So I was going to say thank you very much, audience, for your participation in the word cloud. So as Ali rightly mentioned, and I probably should have told you, so I'm going to express my vulnerability here, is that the words appear larger the more people that say that word as well. So it's great that we've been able to see lots of different things of what you guys perceive as public engagement. So thank you very much for that. So we're almost coming to the end of the Menti session, which your phone is probably thinking, oh God, I don't have enough battery life. It's okay, it's okay. So another word cloud that we'd like to ask you, and it's the last one that we will do, is what attributes do you think are needed to be able to participate in public engagement? So for instance, Zandy, you said about being able to communicate, just speak with other people. Have you got anything else you want to just add, maybe prompt the audience with a few things so
I
far?
think I think just, being, I don't know if I'm using the correct English word, but really being adaptable, because environments and communities change in the blink of an eye. So I think if you are coming in and you're going to do flexible, there we go. Thank you for that. So really definitely being flexible around to move or to, change, or, just really understand that you're working in a very rapid, changing environment. That's one thing you need to always understand. I mean, we think about how we used to do community engagement before COVID and how we're doing it now. You know what I mean? It's completely different. And you also need to understand that some people still have the preference of wanting to do something in a certain way, and you also need to be able to respect that as well. So there's just that flexibility of understanding that the environment is not stagnant, it is changing all the time, and also people and communities are changing. So even in terms of what they find important at a certain time, when you go back again, you might find that that is no longer what is ideal or what is sensitive or what they want to talk about, and you need to be able to adapt to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. There's something that has appeared on the word cloud, which I think is a really important word, actually. I'm surprised that not a lot of people have said it just yet, is empathy. So Sandy, in particular, you had mentioned about working public engagement around the HIV project as well. So I imagine there's an awful lot of sensitivity, especially perhaps maybe you were giving it to HIV sufferers or people who have loved ones that are suffering from the virus. So what's your take on that? What situations have you had to deal with that?
Yeah, I think really empathy and the ability to not transfer in terms of how you're feeling about a situation, because sometimes you can come into an environment and people are literally just sharing their lived experience around a disease. So they'll tell you about how HIV has caused this disease in my life and how it has shaped my life, and they don't necessarily need you to feel sorry for them. They are just trying to unpack that experience for you. So it's extremely important to also not transfer how you are feeling about what they're saying, but of course showing empathy in terms of understanding, or at least trying to understand where they're coming from.
Mm. And Ali, do you think that's like empathy is a skill that you have to teach to perhaps people that are helping you deliver on your public engagement?
I think it's remembering to use it. I think it's very easy as a researcher, you go in, you think I have my agenda, I've maybe learned a script for an activity, and I'm just going to say it. Actually, though, the researchers, you know your stuff, you know your research, you know better than anyone else in the world oftentimes. So you don't need to have the script. Actually, go in and have a conversation and open up and listen. And, practice that natural empathy that we all have somewhere in there. And you'll pick up on those cues of how people are responding, whether they're bouncing off you, if they're understanding what you're saying, so yeah, I think it's something to really be aware of and just keep thinking, we're both humans. That's what we're sharing here. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And once again, guys, the audience, thank you so much for participating. You've got some great stuff in there. So the last thing that we would like to do with you is for any of your questions. But what I'm actually going to do is it'll now appear on your screens on your phone, but actually I'm going to stop sharing the screen so you can see mainly our two presenters nice and large on your screen for a change. And we will make sure that we address your audience questions. So just keep firing them into the Menti, and we will make sure that we address most of them. Yeah, thank you very much. So guys, I was going to say, so we've talked about a lot about, you know, communication, the sorts of skills that we need, maybe even around some of the projects that we've done, like the HIV project, the Stobswell community group as well. So you both come from two very different regions of the world, very, very different. So what would you say is maybe something that holds you back? So like it prevents public engagement moving forward, or there's maybe a little block, so it could be the same or something different between the two different countries. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking the question there, but feel free, whoever wants to jump in there on that one.
Can I jump in? You want to jump in, Ollie?
Ooh, I mean, what's the biggest block for public engagement is a great question. You know, I think it's one of those things that we all tend to say is very, very important. And Dundee certainly is really, really good as a university at engaging with public engagement. But for us, researchers they've got experiments, they've got papers to write, they've got things published. There are so many different demands in their times that actually making public engagement a thing that doesn't just happen on a Saturday or after work. That to me is, you know, really looking at, it's a whole research culture thing, though, how we work and how we plan our time and what we really value. That to me would be the big culture change that I am slowly but surely chipping away at management to really think about. But yeah, that to me is our challenge, I think.
Yeah. And you've actually assisted me with that, Ali, if you remember, because yes, I came in, I think, right after you, and you actually sort of not necessarily trained me, but really held my hand in terms of understanding that, you know, the wheels are going to turn, but they're going to turn extremely slow, and you need to understand that. And you know what I mean? Obviously, because I was coming from a culture where public engagement or public participation was already respected. It was something that you know, within social development, there is no way you can say you are going to assist a person or you're going to assist a community with their development without actually engaging with them, right? So, you know, I came from a culture that was already set. You know, if you have your plan, people are actually, in terms of high level, people are actually wanting to join in. They're asking you, when can we join in? When is the next outreach? When are we doing another activity? And then coming into sort of research, clinical research, especially for me, it was completely different. You know, people are set in their ways. We only look after participants. We're not really interested in terms of doing outreach, doing education. People will be educated when they come in the clinic, forgetting that they are part of a community. So, you know, yeah, definitely that you know, that hurdle. But it has changed. I'm not going to lie. It definitely has changed on my part, especially around the development of protocols. You know, scientists now are really seeing the importance of getting the community, you know, feedback, getting community input really with regards to when they are designing their protocols, so that when they get ready to implement, they know that the community has had their input and is also ready to support. I mean, now we've got a new model where if you are going to want any stamp from CIDRI Africa, you need to ask the Public Engagement Forum to support that. And obviously you can't ask them to support it if you've not, you know, had them involved in the design. So those kind of things, it's really slow, but this gets there. Yeah.
I often say I want a t-shirt that says culture change takes time. And
yes.
It does. But I mean, that's us, you know, we've been around for a few years. These centres have been running since 2017. It's now 2021 and things have changed. They have.
So do you think that, so when you were mentioning before about you were having to be relied on by like well, in your case, Andy, you talked about like the clinicians were saying, you know, well, you have to go and do this because we need it. So in the case of, you know, the world is forever changing. You know, a lot of grant holders, do see the importance of having this public engagement part in it. What's your comment to the value that you guys have been offered, if that makes sense, in the case of you know, up and coming grants or grants that you are actually currently part of? So do you find it's like a small bit, or do you find it's a much larger chunk, like it's value?
I think it's two, yeah. So I think it's two ways. So we have your larger grants, right? And there we get to have, if I lack of a better word, really a big stake of the pie. We really have a great input and we can go as wild as we can. But also with regards to our junior scientists, what we've been able to do, and really this is just speaking around the culture change, what we've been able to do is then to make sure that even if they're not going to have a separate activity within their research, but really reel them into our public engagement program and say to them, listen, is there a key population that you are currently doing research around? What topic are you looking at, or whatever it may be. But within our program, it's really vast. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a plethora of stakeholders that we work with and we work with. So we are able to really share our resources and also be able to gain other people's resources in as well. So we are able to really put them in and around. I mean, if you're looking at pregnant women, we've got mothers to mothers that we work very well with. If you're looking at just really different things that we know that we've got stakeholders that are already looking into that. So we don't need to necessarily reinvent any wheel. It's already there. The partnership has already been created. Oh, funny thing about partnership, Ali. So so in the beginning, my director didn't understand when I spoke about partnerships. And I think also it's just a language thing. So obviously it would be for them, would be collaborating. So he just really didn't understand, what is this partnership? And one day he made a comment. He said, you're always speaking about partnerships. Are you getting ready to go to prom? Like, is it about asking somebody out? And I just thought, come on now. It's literally, as it said, it's about partnership. It's about us sharing resources. But anyway, yeah, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So we've been able to do that. We've also been able just to look in terms of which level the scientist is, and then also what resources they have and how much we can then impart with regards to their research.
Cool. And Ali, I was going to say, so, I heard actually just in the conversation that it sounds like you went out to South Africa perhaps to see Zandile, so part of this prom dance partnership sort of thing. But Ali, I was going to say, I want to hear your take on it as well.
So I think in terms of like value, and that's what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Public engagement professionals are tremendous value, and I'm somewhat biased by this, but we're something like we're a very small percentage of the Wellcome Centre's funding and the number of people, but I think we make a big impact across the city. And in Dundee, certainly, hopefully, we're about to have a 7-story mural painted on a wall that will overlook the city. So we're pretty good value, I'm going to say. For the change we make, we do a lot.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Oh.
No, it's really good. I was going to say talking about the value. I mean, you and your team have done quite a lot for Dundee in the way of, I wouldn't say promoting, that's probably the wrong word to use, but making people aware of the big, scary white and blue building where nobody seems to be able to switch off a light. What that thing is at midnight, shining.
Yeah, and actually, I
shining
can see some interesting questions coming in on the Mentimeter, which are
yeah. So I was going to say, so 2020 saw us in a year of, oh dear. Yes, and actually, in fact, it's still causing us some sort of problems now as well, even in 2021. So a question that the audience has asked is, how has COVID affected public engagement, the work that you do? So perhaps Ali, I was going to say, if you want to start us off on that one.
I mean, it's interesting. We've been super busy. We have. It's been different, and there's been a lot of pivoting, but actually it's let us reach whole new audiences and people we could never have reached before. It's helped us build new partnerships, because we love that word, across the city. We approach things initially, we'll do everything online, but then we realized lots of people in Dundee don't have access to digital stuff. So we sent them digital stuff. We did a virtual sleepover with Girl Guiding Dundee a couple of months ago with 1,600 people. We could never have done that. So, it's been busy, but we found the positives in it, and it's helped us reach, I think Zandy and I probably wouldn't have thought to do this event together before, and here we are.
We'll also say this event didn't exist until until COVID happened. So that's a positive, at least from the COVID times. As I say, Zandy, I was going to say, what positives have you seen from the COVID?
I think the positives have been around mostly advocacy. So obviously we focus a lot on HIV and TB, and we saw the urgency that COVID had received, and we were able to, if a lack of a better word, piggyback on that, to really push and say, if you can deliver on this, with regards to masks, if you can deliver on this with regards to prepping hospitals, why can't you do it for TB? You know what I mean? So that in a way was really, really positive. We've now been able to even change. So Cape Town is housed in the Western Cape, and we've got a Western Cape AIDS Council where all the public engagement, it would be specialists sit in. So you would have your researchers, but you also have your health professionals. So from government organization. So what we did now was to have a HIV and TB council. So it's not only just looking at HIV, but now it's looking at TB as well. So that was great, because COVID pushed that. We were able to say, get the urgency that you've gotten for COVID, put it into TB. The negative was definitely because of, the social aspect, especially the social economic aspect. Unfortunately for us, it is still extremely difficult to have this kind of platform, especially if you're doing it locally. It's been fantastic now because you can, there's no longer, and I don't want to say an excuse, but there's no longer a hurdle with having direct conversations with scientists, because now you can just literally log in and have a conversation and get people that you are able to rope in with regards to the research that they're doing. So it's no longer having to look at logistical things, getting a place set up and, getting transport and getting this and all of that. So it's much easier, but it has definitely shown and sort of, really shown a light on the divide. Yeah, it's one thing for us, especially because when we do our engagement, we try by all means to, as the audience has already said, to be empathetic, to understand people's situations and people's environment. So that has been very difficult for us.
Yeah. And I would say to the scientists in the audience, do not switch off your Teams. Do not ignore calls from public engagement. It is such a vital asset to what we all do in the building. But Ali, I was going to say, so you mentioned positives. There wasn't actually a negative that came out of what you said. Is that a mistake, or is there any negatives
of course there have been negatives. We've had to shut our art gallery. We've had to, there've been all sorts of things. We haven't seen people. We've been trapped, not seeing our friends, our colleagues, our publics. But actually, there's a question that's coming through here, and kind of what aspects of online engagement from the last 1.5 years would we keep? Which I think is a great question. And I think I would keep this thinking of new ideas, that not getting stuck in the same things. But the idea of accessibility, we're thinking so much more about accessibility now, and it's so important. So I think that's the really, how is this thing? How can someone who's on computer in a room across the world, how can these people engage with us? I think that's the thing I would keep.
Yeah, and I was going to say, for the members of the public as well, or our audience, that anybody ever participated in an escape room? Some of you may have, some of you may have heard it. So Ali, I was going to say, you turned something that is meant to be a face-to-face event, because you're in theory locked in a room, and say, Ali, how did you manage to deliver on that?
Yeah, it was a nightmare. It's a good challenge. So we have an escape room. We have an escape room which you would just come into our building and play, and there's clues, and you have to kind of solve the puzzles to build the medicine, and it was really good fun. But we took that, turned it into a Google form, actually, because we saw someone had done a Harry Potter one online, which we took the mechanics from. Ours is much more frighteningly complicated. It melted my brain. But we have an escape game, and it meant that we could have 100 Girl Guides play it at the same time, which we couldn't have done in real life. And it means we'll share the link with everyone in the email that follows up the event, so you all can play the online escape game. It's been really useful, and people are having fun with it, we think. The feedback's been great. So yeah, again, it's that creativity, like, okay, what are we going to do?
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I'll poach that from you for our school engagement. It's really great.
Very
See,
welcome.
guys, partnership and communication happens right
Yay!
here on a Microsoft Teams. Go us, go us. And also, guys, as well, I mean, I can speak for CAIR, so the Welcome Centre that myself and Ali are from, is that if you go onto our website, you will find there under our public engagement section a list of activities that we have done, and anything up and coming, actually, you'll be able to see there also. Zandy, I don't know, I was going to say, does your institute have advertisements on on their website?
Yes, we do. And you can also check out our, we're very active on Twitter as well. So they can check out Sidri Africa there.
That's great. That's great. So there's been, a talk about COVID. There's been a talk about, what is required of somebody who does public engagement. I love how one of them, what we didn't actually say, somebody obviously used up all the character count to say none. Anyone
Yeah,
can do it.
anyone can do it.
Which is great, which is great. So I wanted to ask you both as well that public engagement is fun. It's supposed to be fun. And I have to say, from myself doing it with Ali on the things that he's invited me for, I would 100% say it's fun. But to you guys, what's a fun moment that you've both participated in? A hilarious moment, or a yes, I got it, or what are those kind of moments? Because like for the scientists in the audience, their yes moments are maybe like, oh yeah, my experiment worked, and Joe Blogs doesn't care, and it's like, oh no, I need to tell somebody. Whereas you guys get to tell that yes moment. So what would you say has been the most fun and creative aspect that you've done in your job?
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to think. I don't necessarily have a lot of fun moments,
Oh no, it's
but
fun. Public engagement's fun. Don't listen to
no,
her.
I'm just thinking in terms of maybe my kind of fun. Let me put it that way. Maybe my kind of fun. Maybe my kind of fun is not this kind of fun. But I think I've had the yes moments though. I would say so. I really had a lot of yay, you know what I mean? We did it, we got it. And I think one of those moments was we have, and I don't mean this in any way or any form of disrespect, but our director is an old English white man, right? And we took him out and we said, you're going to be part of our school's engagement. We've got a fun activity. So basically, we had collaborated with with the UCT School of Music, right? And we
That's
also
University
had
of
our,
Cape Town, sorry for the audience.
oh,
UCT,
sorry.
University of Cape. No, it's okay, just in case they don't know. That's okay.
School of Music, and the our clinical research site is housed in a township that is very, very artsy. So we've even have like 2 high schools that are just focused art schools. So we had collaborated with the art school, and we also collaborated with the science and technology school, and of course UCT as well as us. So University of Cape Town as well as us. Anyway, so they had a play that they were doing. And while they were doing this play, now you need to think the junior scientists were the one that were actually training them for the play and the drama. So they would say, this goes there, this goes there, this is how an experiment would work and all of that. And and our director during one of the plays stood up and said, "Is that me?" The guy's like, "Is that me?"
Yep.
And obviously you're not supposed to disturb while the play is going on, while the drama piece is going on, but he couldn't hold himself because he's like, it's not, I swear that is me. But anyway, yeah, that was like our fun moment. It was so out of character for him, but anyway, yeah.
That's great. Ali, I was going to say, what's your fun
I-
moment and yes moment? I've actually accidentally put them in the same topic.
That's okay. So the yes moment, I think that moment of glory. I used to do a bit of TV stuff with Scottish TV on a show called The Hour. It was their 5 o'clock daily show. It's presented by this fantastic woman, Michelle McManus, who was she won one of the pop competitions, I don't know, about 15 years ago. She's a pure bra every woman, is how I would describe her in Scots. She's pure bra. She's great. She's very, very Glaswegian. And we were talking about solar wind actually this one time. And after we'd done the segment and filmed it, and it was good fun. And she kind of turned to me and she was like, "Ali, you know, I'm not a scientist, but I get that. it was just a
It's
glorious
A,
moment.
right?
I get that.
Yeah.
But then I had a great one. I was doing a show at Glasgow Science Centre, and the show was about forces, and I'd asked the audience question, can anyone think of the scientist, famous story on Apple falling on his head? Small girl, hand goes up. And I went, "Well, what do you think? What do you think? Chicken licking."
Oh,
Not the scientist I was looking for, but actually we can learn a lot from chicken licking. Chicken licking should have taken more than one survey of that acorn. So it was a very cute moment, and you know, there's so many great moments though. There really are.
That's
Chicken.
brilliant. That's brilliant. I was going to say, so who's incorporating chicken licking into their public engagement when they return back home? Sandy?
It's all about the evidence base.
True, true. I mean, she's
Just a number.
technically not right. Sorry, not wrong. Sorry,
wrong.
a little bit, but
Not the scientist I wanted, but there's still something we can learn.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think that's actually quite good when you said. But I get that. That's good because when you see members of the public, they do actually say that back to you. Often,
Yeah.
I would say it's a common phrase that they say is like, I get that.
I get it, yes.
Or I've never heard it being explained that way.
Mm.
So so we're getting close to time now. So I wanted to ask just one final bit from the audience as well, is about props. So you know, with the work that you guys both do, I was going to say, would you say for an up and coming person who wants to get involved with public engagement, is it necessary to have props?
I mean, not really. If you wanted to do something, you could.
I think for me, I just think it makes it easier, right? But it's not necessary. It's not to say you can't do it without, right? I just think it sort of brings the message through, right? It helps bring the message through. Let me rephrase that. It helps bring the message through, but it's not to say you can't do it without. Let me just put it that way.
So that kind of ties in more with the COVID question as well that came up earlier, is because you're having to do things remotely and props, props that you would use face to face are perhaps not available, or people maybe can't afford to go out and buy something in particular. So a very quick bit is on the visual aids as well. How successful have they been, like visual aids? Have you created videos? Have you created maybe posters, leaflets, information guides? So just a very small bit on that, if you could enlighten the audience with that.
Yes, we have a YouTube channel. We are very, very heavily involved with working with artists who've created some amazing visual pieces, but also our scientists are learning from the artists learn everywhere. It's been a really great thing. So, and actually for those watching, we'll make sure we ping out some links so you can follow and see some of the kind of city maps and the art we've made, all sorts of visual things, our YouTube channel. But yeah, it all helps add.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, we obviously have not been able to go out as much as we would have loved. We still do, but just depending on the alert level that we are in. So we don't get to go out as much. So what we've been able to do is to create those sort of mini 30-second videos that we can distribute to our stakeholders, but also distribute to people that we're currently working with. So would it be the participants within our clinical research? And we obviously also distribute it to our scientists so that they can distribute it to people that, the communities that they're working with. So it's been a learning curve for us. I'm not going to lie. It's been definitely a hybrid way of doing things. So we definitely have online, and then we are still on the ground, because it is important for us to still be seen, especially because we are in health research.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's good. It's good points to make actually as well. Well done. Thank you. So for our audience, I was going to say that is us up at time. I want to thank you all for participating in our Menti sessions. These
Lauren,
sessions.
can I be really cheeky and answer one more question? I'd see.
Yeah.
Very, very naughty and quick. So do I think some kind of public engagement should be part of PhD training programs? Absolutely, yes. I think the skills you gain are fantastic from it. And actually, you can write it up in your thesis. Doing a section on public engagement is valuable. People are doing it, certainly in Dundee. So Whoever asked that question, yes. Sorry, Laura, I'll let you finish your
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, answer on.
Support that.
I can't see that question, so no, good. Thank you, Ali, for picking that one up. So thank you everybody for participating, especially in the mentee sessions, and they have actually formed their own set of public engagement, and we will be using them for future tools as well. So thank you very much. I wanted to thank as well Ali and Zandi for both taking part in this in conversation with. Also wanted to thank as well who we are funded by. So myself and Ali, we are both funded by the Wellcome Trust. So we thank them as well for funding us to be able to do this. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Catherine, for being backstage as well, keeping us live on the air.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.